it started off talking about Iran, okay? But instead of it being Iran, first they started off talking about Iraq. So that's why some people get the impression that this was all about Bernie Sanders, an attack on Bernie, because right out the gate they're asking Bernie about his war vote in Iraq, and then it like pitted Biden against Bernie. But if you've been following the contest, you'll know that Bernie Sanders has no problem bringing up the fact that Joe Biden, he voted wrong. He voted for the war in Iraq. The most colossal blunder in our history ever. And he voted for it. I did not. I strongly opposed it. And he did strongly oppose it. So, I don't even know how you try to clean that up if you're Joe Biden. And in fact, I think it put Joe Biden on his heels early. Because nobody wants to start the night off admitting that they made a mistake. I mean, if you can avoid that, you're going to try to avoid it. And that's what Joe Biden tried to do. And once again, Joe Biden uses Obama to try to blunt the force of his own choices. Now, look, when Joe Biden chose to support the Iraq war, he wasn't kicking it with Barack. He did that on his own, Johnson. That's right. Joe Biden supported that horrible war, that unconstitutional war, that war on a lie. He did that on his own. But what does he do? He says, well, Obama voted against it, and then he chose me as his VP, so basically, who cares? Because Obama chose me anyway. So if Obama think I'm good enough for the country, obviously everyone else should think the same thing, even though no one votes for vice presidents. One guy picks the vice president. The president's chosen by everyone. So the logic that Joe Biden uses doesn't make much sense, but that's okay. Because when I'm talking very forceful, and I'm trying to explain myself, and very much around the way. First thing first. First thing first is Barack Obama chose me in the Biden and Obama administration, him being the president and me being the vice president. Second point is I didn't really need to say that because we all know I wasn't the president. I wouldn't be able to run now if I was the president before. So obviously Obama was the president. I was the vice president. Third thing's this. I don't know why I'm talking right now. I need to get Poligrip. Super enforced Poligrip on my dentures because I'm feeling slippage. And I'm not trying to make fun of the dental situation. I've got my own dental situation. Everybody has their own dental situation. But I'm saying is Biden, he just lies through his teeth so much. That's why they're trying to jump out his head. Okay? And he's making up bad excuses that I don't think go over well. But we'll get to some of those later. So, yes, Bernie scored points in the beginning because he was on firm standing. I mean, he voted against a war that's grossly unpopular. That we really got nothing out of it except money that we gave ourselves. Do you understand that? People have come up with ways to pilfer their own government through faulty wars and fake wars and wars of proxy wars and all this garbage. That's all that is. It's a money grab for corporations. That's it, period. The military-industrial complex, that's what it's all about. All right. Then they switched to Iran, okay? So they start talking about Iran and how, of course, everyone's in agreement that Trump did something wrong, okay? Something he did wrong, and there's various degrees of how wrong he was. Bernie stood head and shoulders over the rest because when they talked about he didn't talk about troop de-escalation. He talked about, let's bring our people out. Let's bring the whole team home. Everybody come home. Everybody. Get him too. Everybody get him. Everybody come home. Bring all the troops home. And it was like, no uncertain terms, Bernie felt that everyone should come home. And I think that's the way most Americans feel too. I mean, we still got people in places in the Middle East, like Afghanistan. We got like a cursory amount of people. Like, it's like there are Americans that are like, we still got people there? We still got people there? Somebody tell Steve to wake up and get up. Come, somebody go get Steve. Go get Steve. I mean, most Americans do not want us in the Middle East, bogged down in wars, in harm's way, for any reason whatsoever. They don't like the reasons for why we went. Their entire There are entire websites built on the idea that these wars were horrible ideas, right? Built on the stance that these are horrible ideas, that we should not be in these wars, that we were tricked into these wars. With thousands and thousands of people who visit them every day, thousands and thousands of members. America doesn't want us in these wars, and Americans want our people to come home. And Bernie Sanders was the only candidate with enough cojones to be like, we need to bring everybody home. Now, they did went to NAFTA or trade agreements, okay? And once again, you know, we got Bernie Sanders against NAFTA, against these trade agreements, these horrible trade agreements that send jobs overseas. He talks about it all the time, how detrimental it was to our economy, to working folks here in America, those who had those manufacturing jobs before the catastrophe of Bill Clinton really took hold. And then we got Joe Biden, who voted for him. Joe Biden's the guy, he's right there. And now I'm going to say this. I think that Bernie should have hit Biden harder. Yeah, he should have hit him harder on this because that's the guy right there. That's a chief architect of these horrible trade agreements right there, Bernie. Get his ass. No, not figuratively, not someone else. No, literally get him. He's right there. Like, you can reach out and touch him. It's like when we watch these horrible court cases where a parent has lost a child to some insane, callous action of a person, and the father is in the courtroom, and that person's sitting there with a smug look on his face. And something in that dad, deep down in that dad, is like, I'm going to get you. And he does. He gets him. And then you had the bailiffs. They pretend to get him off. You know, like, oh, hey, Pop, come on, Dad. Like, but, you know, they're not really trying that hard. That's what America was feeling. And that's what we would have felt if Bernie would have went after Biden harder on this. No one likes the trade agreements. Well, most people don't like them, right? Who realize that jobs over there, jobs in Vietnam, making your clothes, doesn't help workers here in the United States. Like, most people kind of get that. Like, you don't need to explain China on everything. Doesn't go well. I mean, unless you invested in the China corporation, and then it happened. You're darn right it happened. You're darn right it happened. Listen here. So you want to ask me the question? You're going to ask me the question about Bernie Sanders. Did Bernie Sanders say what I think he said, what I said he said about the election? When I said, Bernie said, that we said if you said, and you said about what she said and he said, because we said. And it was a part of the discussion that we all knew was going to come, where they started doing the he said, she said, because 2 years ago, Bernie Sanders had a dinner with Elizabeth Warren. No one else was at the actual dinner. It was a closed-door dinner between the two. I don't know if I like that, but okay, fine. Because it leads to situations like this, where 2 years later, Elizabeth Warren's like, he said a woman can't be president. And Bernie's like, that's not what I said. And it's just back and forth because he's saying it didn't happen. It's not what he said. And she's saying that's what he said. And it's like, look, here's the deal, guys. Man, I mean this with all due respect to all the ladies in the house. Who cares? No, seriously, who gives a damn? No one cares. No one cares who said what. The bottom line is, Elizabeth Warren, are you the person that should be president? See, if you're the person that should be president, it doesn't matter if this figurative, like this figurative lady, this imaginary person can be president or not. No one votes for an imaginary person, okay? Everyone's different. Everyone's unique. Being a president is a really big deal. And I don't really like the idea that, well, you think a woman should be president. Hell, I don't think a man should be president unless they're a very special kind of guy. Like, that's my opinion, right? I almost don't believe anybody should be president. Like any person walking around. I mean, it's too much power for anybody to have, really, in my opinion, except for one person at this point. Like, I'm always looking at Bernie like I'm checking him out because I support Bernie, but that's a hard choice to get behind any candidate because it's a lot of power for anyone to have. And then you're not even talking about real people. You're talking about a woman. Like, what kind of woman is she? A tall woman, a short woman, a smart woman, a not so smart woman, a rocket scientist, a doctor, a lawyer, a spy, or did she arm wrestle? Did she do WMA or MMA or what is it? Like, no descripting anything. Just can a woman do it? And for you to float the idea, or for you to flat out say, he said no woman can be president. Well, are we talking about Cardi B? Or are we talking about, like, you? Well, I like Cardi B, but I wouldn't vote for her to be president. Call me kooky, but I like, she can do these songs. I like Lizzo, but I don't want her to be my senator. You understand what I'm saying? So it matters what woman you're talking about, okay? And in the conversation, you sound like you guys just had a theoretical conversation. Now, the thing about this, and I think Bernie won this argument hands down. And the reason why I say Bernie Sanders won this argument hands down is very simple. Elizabeth Warren brought it up. Bernie Sanders refutes it. And then she shut up about it. Now, if you say Bernie said something, he says he didn't say it, and you let it go, who looks like the liar? And if you're going to let it go, why bring it up, Johnson? Sounds to me like somebody did the numbers and realized, hey, this ain't working like I thought it was going to work. Hey, Liz, what do you want now? Liz, come here. Let me talk to you. Me and the staff been crunching the numbers, right? Crunching numbers. And I know you're not going to like this, Liz, but that whole Bernie said women ain't shit thing, well, it's not working. It's not going over as well as I thought. Not going over. So you're trying to tell me that this idea that you guys came up with isn't working out the way you told me it would work out. Okay. Put your head in the door jamb. Now just put your diddly head in the door jamb. Go ahead, get your head in the door jamb. Get that head in the door. This was what you call an unforced error, ladies and gentlemen. It did not need to happen. Understand? If you accuse somebody of something, you go through no one said, hey, Elizabeth, what did Bernie say at the meeting? Did Bernie say that women can't be president? That wasn't it. No, you offered this information. You offered it up. You submitted it. So you brought it up. If you bring up something, you got to ride or down. And you can't just bring it up and be like, let me go ahead and just let it go, because I don't want to argue with Bernie. No, motherfucker, you started the argument. You started the argument. There was no argument. People were not arguing. And then you brought up a thing that they've been talking about for 48 hours. And then when you're on the world stage, you say, well, I don't want to start an argument. Little late. Oh, fiddly sticks, Timberlake. Oh, golly gee willikers, Timberlake. There you go again. There you go, being a stickler for realism. There you go, holding people accountable for things they say. I was talking in jest. I didn't literally mean he said women can't be president. And another thing you guys need to know about this before I get a lot of hate mail about it, I noticed that when Elizabeth Warren talked about this issue, she never quoted him verbatim. She made the conclusion of how he felt. She didn't say, Bernie said a woman can't be president. She said, Bernie doesn't think a woman can be president. That's different. That's different. That's different, guys. That's an interpretation. That's you interpreting what I say. That's not what I said. Okay? So, that's different. If you say, this is what I think. No, I'll tell you what I think. If I say, I don't think a woman can be president, that's me saying it. But if I say, well, Donald Trump's a son of a, and he's a horrible, and Bernie runs through the litany of things, and the most horrible, most bigoted, most worst, most existential threat, most, bad person who doesn't flush and pees on the rim of the toilet seat and never puts the lid up, and he's the guy that leaves the lights on, and he's a jackass, and he never says please or thank you, and doesn't cough in his jacket, the sleeve of his coat, or nothing. Okay? That guy. That's not the same thing as saying, saying the thing. It's like, all right, so I'm going to get off it, but I just want to make that emphatically clear, guys. She sucked on this part. This was not good for her. This hurt her. You understand? Because there are a lot of Bernie supporters that I know, okay, who was looking at Elizabeth Warren as their number 2, okay? All right? They were looking at her as number 2. They were like, but they're the 2 progressives, Tim Black. And if you don't support her, who are you going to support? She's got to be number 2. But now that she stabbed him in the back for a reason that she even admits is not worth it, what's the point? Now what do people think? Oh, and by the way, let the record show, and she did not refute it, Bernie tried to push her to run in 2015. So I think Elizabeth Warren was a woman in 2015, and Bernie tried to persuade you to run in 2015, and you're a woman. What does that really say? Klobuchar started talking about competency, okay? Competency and, not gender, which is good. Klobuchar talked about competency and not gender. It's about competency, if you're competent. But then, as Klobuchar usually does, here's the road. There goes Klobuchar. Here's the road. There goes Klobuchar. She goes off the road and starts giving you these anecdotal reasons of all these women that did stuff. Well, Joan of Arc did this, and that woman who, Nadia Comaneci did these flips, and Rachel Dolezal pretended to be a black woman. Look, what are you talking about? What does that got to do with sexism and presidents? What are you talking about? And it's like, it became a bad thing, guys, where all of a sudden, now it's the battle of the sexes. That's not good either, okay? It's not good for us to be judging who should get what job, theoretical people, like abstract people, no one specifically talking about gender. And this person, well, the woman should be a woman should be the primary caregiver because she's a woman, and the guy should be the primary. These antiquated ideas are just as hurtful or just as harmful as saying women should be, women because women are women, and that's why women these ideas. I think they're played out. It should be about your agenda, not your gender. Okay, what do you plan to do for me and my family? What's the likelihood of you actually fighting for that? Can I trust you? I gotta look into your soul. These things matter. What's your track record? Those things matter so much more than who stands up or who sits down or who has a bra, who doesn't. Or who might need one. But you get my point. Okay. And like I said, Warren, she didn't do herself any favors on that point. Now, they're going to report it differently in the cable news, I'm sure. They're going to be like, oh, Warren did a great job of not standing up for the thing that she brought up. Okay, they're going to say that, but I don't think she did. Then the conversation switched to Medicare for All. And it went to Medicare for All, and it was like, Bernie's on the hot seat. Now, Bernie got to explain shit we already know, like we already pay more than any other country for our health care, but we don't get the best health care. So at least if we start paying more for it, we can have the best. Because we already pay the most. It don't have the best. Not even close to the best. Not even in the top 100. Do you understand? You already pay a premium. People go bankrupt and people die. Bankrupt and die. Okay? Quality of life. Okay? Because of our insurance companies and our health industry. Okay? And the idea that Klobuchar and Buttigieg and Biden have is, it's okay. We'll just tinker around at the edges because, Obama did, so we need to just make that plan better. No, a lot of people don't like Obama's plan, okay? Okay. So Bernie had to spend his lot of time like teaching people that 2 plus 2 is 4. If you take 2 and you add another 2 and you put them together, you'll come up with a sum of 4. And had to keep saying that, well, Bernie, we don't really understand what you mean by that. If you have 2 different things, if you have 4 things, you have 2 things over here, and you have 2 things over there. You take the 2 things, the two groups of 2 things. You put the 2 things, the 2 and 2 things together, and you count them all in succession. The 2, the 4. You come up with 4 things. I don't get it. What is Bernie talking about? Bernie's crazy. I don't know what he's talking about. If you take the things, if you have 4 things, Jesus Christ, Lord have mercy. Jane, I can't work with these people. Jane, put my prescription in. Jesus. If you have 2 groups of 2s, you idiots, you take the things, you put the things together, you count the things. That's like trying to explain, gravity to people who can't jump. It's like, if you jump up in the air, you will have to come down. But why? We pay more than Australia and Sweden and Canada and Austria, Rome, France, and Zimbabwe. I can just keep naming countries. I don't even have to think. Mexico and Tupalupa and Geneva and Saudi Arabia. Like, I can just name every country. It don't even matter where it is. And I can be sure we pay more than it. Okay? Johnson. All right. Woo! There's one part of this debate where Abby Phillips, she says, she looks Bernie in the eye, man. And I couldn't believe she said that. She looked him in the eye and she said, so Bernie, so let's say you get Medicare for All passed. Why would you want to bankrupt the government? And all I could think while I'm watching this was, why is it every time they want to stick it to Bernie with bullshit like things they pull out the air to discredit him, they always use a black woman to do it? Like, why is it like earlier today it was like Whoopi Goldberg, and last weekend it was Joy Reid, and week before that it was some other black woman I don't know. Now it's Abby. Every time it's like a thing. It's like an ingredient. Like, we're gonna, hey, you black woman, come here. What do you do? Work at Arby's. Come here. Put this on. All right. Get out there. I need you to, hold on a second. Do you like Bernie Sanders? I think it's okay. No, you don't. You want a job? It's like that's what they do. And I know it's wrong for me to say it because, like, it's not based on anything. Abby Phillips is probably very educated, very articulate, way more articulate than I could ever be, right? She uses all her consonants correctly. She never spits when she talks, okay? Doesn't need to be told to take the gum out of her mouth before she goes on set. None of that, okay? Joy Reid, regardless of what we say about her, she's a smart lady, okay? Smart lady, okay? IQ in a respectable position, okay? The dot is where it needs to be on the side of the numbers. But it just keeps happening. She actually looked Bernie in the eye and said, so this Medicare for All thing you want to do, why do you want to bankrupt the government trying to do it? And it's like, I know for a fact she would never say that about these damn wars we're in. You know, like she would never be like, Joe, you're cool with war because you voted for it. Why is it okay to spend trillions of dollars killing people that you don't even know, man? Like, couldn't we spend that money other ways? Like, why you want to bankrupt the government? Huh? Like, no, but see, when it comes to our life expectancy, our kids' life expectancies, grandma being able to be here to see little Jimmy first steps, like now we got to talk about cost. I'm going to go blow up the Middle East. How much you gonna spend? Don't even tell us. Just go do what you need to do, bro. Hey, grandma needs an operation. Oh, God. How much this is gonna cost? God. Oh, wow, that much, huh? Oh, God, that seems like a lot. That's America. And you don't find it hypocritical at all. And that makes you a freaking hypocrite. That's not a problem for your ass. It's, the bomb's cool. One of the worst questions was from some guy in Des Moines. I don't know who he was, but you know, it's the Des Moines Register and CNN. They sponsored the event, okay? First caucus state is Iowa. So it's a big deal. There was something said about insurance. The question was this. Hi, there's someone in Des Moines. The question comes from Dale out of Des Moines. And he works in the insurance industry. And Dale would like to know what's going to happen to all the insurance jobs if Medicare for All passes. What about those people who work at the insurance companies? And when they said it, I just wanted to just reach through the screen. Just reach through the screen and wrap my hand around the throat of the person asking the question. I just wanted so badly to choke slam. It's like one clean move. It's choke slam. And you slam them. You drive them through the ground. It's like Joe Biden would say, you want to fight? Want to do some push-ups? You want to fight? What you want to do? You want to fight? Want to go outside? We can do it, buddy. Come on, bucko. Come on, bucko. You think I'm an easy win? I ain't no easy win. You walk over, but you're limping back. You choke slam. I choke slam you. Me and my hairy legs and the roaches, we choke slam you. Come here, sucker. We're going to choke slam, bucko. Me and Potsy Weber and Ralph the Mouth, we're going to choke slam you like a Happy Days. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, slam. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, slam. Choke slam. I don't give a damn about what happens with the people who work at the insurance companies, okay? Do you care about, like, the coal jobs went away too, right? I care. Like Bernie said he has a plan. We're going to transition people out, okay? It ain't going to happen overnight. It's too many people. It's going to take 5 years, okay? Okay? But being an insurance adjuster or whatever, okay, there are other industries that still use insurance. Like, no one's getting rid of Geico, mofo. It's still going to be Geico, okay? It's going to be home insurance. It's just health insurance, all right? So just that question, all right. Tuition-free public college. Okay? That was the next topic. And I noticed while we were talking about tuition-free public college, and of course, Joe Biden was against it, he started talking about his plan, And I'm like, Joe's doing a lot of talking about college. And he's talking about a plan. But he has no name for the plan. And then I realized something. Joe doesn't name his plans because none of his plans are good enough to have names. It's like if you had a child, you just called him Child. Or you had a dog, you just called a dog Dog. Because you really no emotional connection to the child or the dog. Yeah? That's Joe Biden's plans. None of his plans have names. Name me a Joe Biden plan. Like, something. Like I know Bernie's Medicare for all. Like there's different plans. And somehow that came back up. And the whole time, this is what I wanted to say. This was very interesting. God, I wish I said it earlier. While they were talking about Medicare for all, guys, all I could think about was Andrew Yang. Oh, yeah, I just kept thinking, man, I wish Andrew Yang was up there. Because for 20 minutes, they talked about Medicare for all. And it was pretty obvious that everyone was talking about Bernie's plan. Because he wrote the damn bill. I was like, God, I wish Andrew Yang was up on that stage, man. I would love to hear him defend his stance that when we talk about Medicare for all, and when they've talked about it in every debate, that they're not talking about Bernie's plan. They're talking about an abstract idea like Medicare for all abstractly. They're not really talking about Bernie's plan. It would have been great, guys, to hear Andrew Yang have to defend that rubbish, that lie, that deception right there in public in front of everyone. But I'm sure the Yang gang would have dismissed it anyway. They're all out to get him, trying to make him use words that make sense and be on the same topic as everyone else. This is what they do to the first Asian candidate, viable candidate for the presidency. They make him stay on topic and stop making up shit, just randomly just saying stuff in order to fool his voters into thinking he supports legislation he doesn't really support. Anyway, and yes, it does pain me that Dave Chappelle today endorsed Andrew Yang. That bothers me. Yeah, it bothers me, almost as much as it bothered me when Dave Chappelle quit Comedy Central. I mean, I was making thousands of dollars off those bootleg DVDs, and then he just up and quits? Gosh, man. Help a brother out. And now you support Andrew Yang, a guy who supports policies or doesn't support policies that he says he supports. And I'm beginning to think a lot of people that support Andrew Yang, like Childish Gambino and Dave Chappelle, they do so because he's the safe choice. Yeah, if you support Bernie, your career is over. But if you support Yang, it really doesn't matter because I got as much chance as winning as Yang. So it's like, it's okay. Like, man, who you support, and who you support, Gambino? Yang. Oh, okay. Long as it's not Pete or Bernie. Because if it's Pete, well, we know you don't like the blacks. But if it's Bernie, we know you don't like nobody. You don't like your job. Fulfilling the need of you being the first president is really not a need we need. All right, next. Bernie came next. Bernie, he talked about people living paycheck to paycheck and the 1% being greedy bastards and corruption and greed, and we need to end the greed, and we need to all band together to fight against, oligarchy and the 1% and take back our country. One person, all the people together can do this. We can all do it together. And it's like, as usual, it's a great thought, and it's something we can all get behind. I think it involves everyone. It's not segmented off, and it's tangible. It's like, okay, we might need to get our asses in the streets, though, because I don't think rich people are just going to be like, all right, take all the tax money you want. Like, we might have to do some stuff. But, yeah, okay, all right. Like I can get behind the idea that includes everybody. Let's eat the rich. I'm hungry. I got to say, Elizabeth Warren was a loser tonight. And the main reason was I was really focused on this thing, okay? I was focused on this allegation she made that Bernie said a woman can't be president. And I'm sure that most of the people who she needs to vote for her, because see, if you're a Klobuchar supporter, you don't give a shit about that story. If you are a Biden supporter, you could care less. But if you are a Bernie Sanders supporter or an Elizabeth Warren supporter, or if you are adjacent to either one of those candidates, and you know about that story, you had the popcorn ready, and you wanted to hear what she had to say. And to see her fold like a lawn chair to fold like a cheap suit, to fold like my 10-year-old hiding his homework that he got a bad grade on because he wasn't paying attention. Like, to fold like that, that's not good. Now, they might never put it that way in corporate media because they have a tendency to throw Bernie under the bus and elevate anyone. But in my opinion, that's one of the losers of the night. I do want to mention this about Warren and like one of the allegations, right? Now, I have not been able to source this myself, okay? But I've been told by a couple of folks. One of them says they know somebody on the Bernie Sanders campaign. And another one told me, and I don't remember how this person came about the information, but they were like, yo, I got a scoop for you. It turns out that document was put together. There was something put out that was showing a contrast between Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. And in that document, it did say that Elizabeth Warren was not able to bring in a diverse coalition, that she would not be able to excite voters like Bernie can, and that the people that vote for her are more affluent. Now, here's the kicker about that. So she wasn't lying. She didn't fabricate that based on my sources, okay? But here's the thing. It's true. This is something that has been well documented for months about Elizabeth Warren supporters. They are more affluent. Bernie's average supporter is a worker at Walmart, Target, Amazon, or USPS. Okay? That's his average. And it's teachers, not professors, but regular third-grade teachers. Okay? Junior high teachers, like teachers at your local schools, at your elementaries and your middle schools. Okay? Those are the people who support Bernie's campaign. The average donation, $18. Elizabeth Warren is a different person altogether, and she forms a different type of following. To say that that's an attack and a smear, or that's trashing you, to say Bernie attracts more working class voters, is just to tell the truth. I don't even know how that became a negative. Now, I understand they may have had a pact, some type of agreement. Never say anything negative about you. You never say anything negative about me. Well, I don't know how that's going to work now. There could only be one president, Johnson. Only one. You guys can't co-president. Nina Turner told me that there was no such agreements. There are no pacts. There are no team Biden and, Bernie, or team Bernie and anybody. It's just everybody want to be president. That's why everybody's running. So if everybody wants to be president, there can only be one. It's going to come down to this. And they both happen to have the same, well, not the same. Bernie had policies in 2015, and somehow now Elizabeth Warren has adopted a number of those. Well, of course, it's going to be confrontation at some point. And the further we go, the more that's going to happen. And being upset about it, I don't see how that changes anything. Winners. The winners tonight, it's obvious for me who won tonight. Joe Biden won tonight, okay? Joe Biden won, not because he was impressive, but because a good portion of the night was spent chasing Bernie Sanders. And that was by construct. That's what they wanted. They wanted to go after Bernie, and I get it. He's the front runner. Quiet as it's kept, he's been the front runner for a long time because no one's polling independent voters, no one's polling new voters, no one's polling people that don't vote. And those are all the people. That's part of the main part of Bernie's coalition. Okay? There's a reason why he has more supporters and more volunteers and he has more donations than any other candidate. Okay? There's a reason why. That's because he actually has more support than any other candidate. I know it seems wacky, but that's sort of how that works. Like, you raise more money because he's got more supporters. He's got more donations because he's got more supporters. Funny thing happens. People give money because they're supporting. I know. Don't have this conversation with anybody from corporate media. They'll tell you how that doesn't really make sense, that the people, that just because he has more donors, individual donations, doesn't mean he has actually more support. He could have more donations, but then those donations could be this money that fell from the sky, like not unlike manna in the book Deuteronomy. The manna fell from the sky and the people ate it, and it was. So Joe Biden won because Joe Biden was able to just keep his dentures in and shut the hell up and, kind of cruise a little bit and not talk too much. But Bernie also won because no one scored a real knockout blow. Nobody really laid a glove on him. I mean, they talk bad about Medicare for all, but at this point, people either want it or they don't. They already know about it. Bernie's not going to back off of it. So it's a tie. I think it's a stalemate between Bernie and Biden, which is the way it should go because those are the two front runners. Okay? That's who's going to come down to. And in my opinion, it's not a hard choice at all.